Hey everyone, I'm Derek, and welcome to IATA Reddit Stories. Today we're counting down our picks for the top 5 Reddit relationships. Story number 5. My 32M partner, 47M, became really pushy about sex after hearing about my past. Is there any healthy way of making the relationship work? Too long didn't read. I'm on a break in my relationship with my partner due to him becoming pushy, kinda aggressive sexually, which was stressing me out. He is now attributing this to a kink that he promises to deal with better if I give him another chance. Not sure where to go from here. I've posted before about this relationship. I, 32M, have been with N, 47M, for about 2 years. Lately, he's been getting more and more sexually aggressive, which I thought was due to me being preoccupied with work, uni stress, and having less time. I told him many times that I was uncomfortable, but nothing changed, so I asked for some space. We are on a break, but have been texting, calling at times. He has now told me that his behavior was linked to being turned on by some of my past experiences and getting caught up in it. Background. I had a ked up, abusive childhood, and as a teen, young adult, I assumed I was into being used, forced, degraded. Like, I guess I kinda was into it. It did turn me on, but it also really messed me up. I think this is relatively common for people who have experienced abuse, and there are ways of exploring these feelings that are safe, healthy, but what I was doing wasn't remotely safe or healthy. All in all, that whole chapter of my life was pretty fucking grim. I'm now in my early 30s. I'm reasonably open-minded, but I'm pretty vanilla in terms of what I enjoy, what I'm looking for. I've had conversations with N about our sexual histories. I told him a bit about the sort of experiences I had in the past and the fact that it's not what I'm into anymore. His experiences have been pretty tame by comparison. His reaction wasn't really what I hoped for it. It was very much, "Man, I wish I'd known you back then," and really pushing for details, etc. I got the impression it changed how he viewed me, if that makes sense. Sex got rougher. The way he spoke to me changed. He talked about a lot of fantasies based on the things I told him. I'm still not entirely sure what to do with that. If it's just stuff he likes talking, fantasizing about, I can potentially get on board. But I really have no interest in recreating any past experiences, involving other people, etc., which I've told him. He said that he got really caught up thinking about this stuff because it's a kink he didn't realize he had. I really don't know how plausible that is. He's 47. Surely if he's super into this kind of dynamic, he would have had an inkling by now? I would really like to get back together, but this issue is bothering me. He says if I give him another chance he'll be more careful and considerate. But I was asking for that for ages and he didn't do it until I wanted to break up. It'll be hard to trust him. Is there any advice for things we should be talking about or things I should be considering even making this decision? Story number 4. How can I, 17F, thank my stepmother, 41F, for everything she has done for me? My father, 45M, and Anna have been together for a bit more than 18 years. Before that, my dad and my mom had a fling that lasted 3 months and then it ended and he met Anna. My mom and dad didn't talk until I was 3, so both my dad and Anna were unaware of my existence. My mother didn't want to tell him, or didn't care. I don't know. What I do know is that when I was 3 she contacted him, a DNA test was done and she basically forced us to have a relationship. While this was a shock to my father, who suddenly had a 3-year-old walking around his house, it probably was a bigger shock to Anna, who thought that she had just moved in with a childless man, yet she got both a boyfriend and a toddler. Anna has been, from day one, a brilliant person. I always felt welcome. She drove me to school, to the doctors, to playdates, to hockey practice. She thaffed me to ride a bike, included me in everything, yet gave me and my dad the space to have our own relationship as father and daughter. She never imposed herself. She never made the decisions which concerned me. She left that for my dad and mother. She always talked respectfully of my mother, even when I was mad at my mom. Even when my mom said mean things about her, Anna never said mean things about her. My relationship with my mother is not good, but I am happy to have Anna in my life. I see and hear from friends with stepparents how difficult it can be. I read and hear about kids who were ignored because their parents' new partner didn't want them to be a part of their lives. I was wondering how I can express my gratitude to Anna for everything she did to me. Too long didn't read. How to thank my stepmom. Story number 3. My girlfriend of 3 years told my mom that she doesn't think it'll work between us. I'm abroad finishing a trip and dreading coming home to be broken up with. How should I react? Too long didn't read. How to react healthily to an impending breakup that I cannot reveal I know about to my partner. To be honest, I'd been considering breaking up as well. Our sex life has been poor by my measure for months. She has been waiting for a proposal that I feel we're nowhere near ready for. But, and this is selfish, I have never felt safer than with her. She cuddles me and strokes my head and tells me she loves and believes in me. She helps me improve and wants me to be better than I already am. I struggle with depression and I really don't know if I can go back to being alone after 3 years of this safety. Moreover, I took an extra week on a family vacation and let everyone go back, including her, while I traveled for a week. She apparently told my mom on the flight back that she thinks this will be her last trip with my family and that things won't work out with me. She also asked my mom not to tell me so as not to ruin the remainder of my trip, but mom didn't want to keep secrets from me. I understand my mom's reasoning, but now it's all I can think of and I'm going to obsess over this. I'm freaking out. Edit. Just to be clear, I did ask, twice, if she would like to join me. I just love Italy. I don't really regret having made the choice to stay. Story number 2. How do I start a relationship with my nieces and nephew when their father was responsible for my brother's passing? One of my employees mentioned that this may be a good place to get some advice for my current dilemma. I, 46M, am one of 4 kids. My older brother P, 48M I think, who I no longer have any contact with, my younger brother J, who is no longer with us, and my youngest sister K, 44F. Recently P's children, 2 girls and 1 boy, all in their late teens and early 20s, reached out to me and expressed a desire to have a relationship. I have 0 contact with their father and swore that I would beat him black and blue if I ever saw him again. A little background. My oldest brother P was always the golden child. No matter what he did, my parents always had an excuse for why it was not his fault. Bad grade? Teacher had it out for him. Cheating on every single one of his relationships? Good thing you did it to her before she did it to you. That one was my personal favorite. He also used to torment Jay and I constantly when we were smaller than him, until in high school, when I hit a growth spurt and sprung up to about 6 feet 4 and 230 pounds worth of muscle. After that I became the typical jock type. Played football, partied, bunch of friends, etc. Well, my younger brother, Jay, didn't get as lucky and stayed pretty small and scrawny throughout high school and college, only getting up to about 5 feet 8 and didn't have a super active social life. Despite the difference in our schooling experience, I was always very protective of Jay, especially since we were always having to put up with P's bullshit. Which stopped once he realized I could pound him into the ground and not break a sweat, as he was also a lot smaller than me at only 5 feet 10. Not much to say about Kay, she was a great younger sister and P didn't dare mess with her or he would incur the wrath of our mother. So, in the late 90s, Jay met his first real girlfriend, A, and was over the moon about her. He spent every spare moment with her, and when he wasn't with her, he would do nothing but gush about her. I had never seen him so happy. Well, one day, he comes to us, all smiles, and announces that A is pregnant and they are expecting. The mood quickly turned, however, when a week later it came out that A had been cheating on Jay for the duration of their relationship with our older brother P. This broke my brother, and of course P, being the golden shit that he is, didn't even get a disappointed glance from our parents. To this day I have never seen someone look so broken as Jay had looked the last time I saw him. I believe his heartache was only compounded by the fact that my parents basically told him to get over it and be happy for our brother. Well, about a week after this revelation came to light, Jay took his own life. I had never been so sad and angry at the same time in my entire life. Sad that I would never see my brother again, and the pure rage of knowing that this was my brother and parents' fault. During the funeral, P walked in with A and I saw red. Thankfully I had other family there to stop me from doing anything stupid, but I told P that if I ever saw him again, I would kill him. Shortly after that, I cut contact with 90% of my family, with the exception of K and a cousin I had always been close with, because everyone except them wanted to make excuses for my parents and P. Fast forward to present, I never had any kids, and truth be told, I never wanted any. I much prefer the role of the fun uncle. K met a great guy and had 2 daughters, who I absolutely adore. P had 2 more kids with A before cheating on her, shocker, and splitting, and I've never met any of them. My parents have tried to make contact a handful of times, but I always told them to kick rocks. So last week, I'm chatting with K's daughters, 19 and 17. and they mentioned that their cousins have wanted to meet me for a long time and were hoping I would be willing to meet them as well. I don't believe they know everything that transpired between their dad and I, but I would be lying if I said I never had any desire to meet them. So everyone, I'm hoping to crowdsource any ideas, suggestions on how I maintain a relationship with P's kids while also keeping him out of my life. Any suggestions are welcome. Too long didn't read. 20 plus years ago my older brother caused my younger brother's suicide. Now his kids want to meet me and have a relationship, but I don't know how to have a relationship without my brother getting involved. Story number 1. My uncle is telling everyone I'm lying about getting my bachelor's degree because I refused his offer to buy my cap and gown. How do I set boundaries with them about this? Okay, so here's the story. I've been in very tenuous, sporadic contact with my extended family since I was 18. This is primarily due to the fact that I often didn't have a phone during this time, for reasons we will discuss later, but also due to the fact that my relationship with them has been strained for most of my life now. My mother is schizophrenic and has likely displayed symptoms since before I was born, though she wasn't diagnosed until I was about 15. She was misdiagnosed with bipolar disorder and PTSD. As a result, my mother made a lot of, shall we say, questionable life choices. She never did anything illegal and never directly abused me, but she got into some shady romantic relationships, made some bad decisions with regards to her work life, ended up in a lot of debt, and just generally made a mess of her life and the lives of everyone around her. My extended relatives aren't on speaking terms with my mother, and while they do seem to care about me in some small way, they also project many of their issues with her onto me and have treated me sort of badly because of it. I've learned that cordial distance is the best way to deal with them. Unfortunately, my mother decided she didn't want to burden me with her care, and so she impulsively eloped with someone she'd been dating for all of 2 months, and please note, this is not the first time she's done this. He turned out to be an ex-convict with a drug problem. I called social services, but they were no help. As a result, I ended up homeless and broke when I was 20. I had a job. I was staying in the dorms that semester to facilitate some late-night labs, and I was able to sell some things, and plasma, in order to get a security deposit together, but my university wouldn't allow me to move out of the dorms and into an off-campus apartment because I was technically a sophomore, as I transferred from a community college and lost about a semester and a half's worth of courses. I petitioned the university to allow an exception due to extenuating circumstances. They asked me to provide evidence of an irreconcilable break with my extended family. When I asked my relatives to let me stay with them, I did it hoping that they would say no. I didn't tell them what was going on or any of that because, they wouldn't care, and b, the refusals needed to seem genuine, which they were. True to form, they all refused to let me stay with them. I turned in the Facebook messages to my university, and as a result, I was able to move into an empty bedroom for that last semester, then into a one-bedroom apartment in the same complex the following academic year, which is where I've been for the past 7 years. I never told my relatives the real reason I was asking them for help, or the fact that I made my plans with the full expectation that they would refuse. When I was 22, I ended up going through some health problems and wasn't able to pay my phone bill, and so I ghosted them for another 5 years. Unfortunately, once you lose contact information, it can be really hard to find it again, particularly if your relatives don't have a social media presence. During those next 5 years, a lot of things happened. I had multiple life-threatening health problems come up, got hit by a car, had a baby that I then put up for adoption, and had to press charges against a stalker, among other things. I went through most of this with no support, and was eventually forced to leave school for a few years in order to get my life together. I finally graduated with a bachelor's degree in 2018, after about 8 years of struggle. While I was finishing up my last semester of school, I found my uncle's contact information and got in touch with him to let him know I was alive. I told him the Cliff Notes version of my life over the past half a decade, and then told him that I was graduating from university. He was ecstatic and asked me when graduation was. I told him I wasn't going because I couldn't afford to drop $500 on a cap and gown, at which point he offered to pay for it himself. I eventually told him that I didn't want this, as I mostly just wanted to celebrate my graduation by myself. I get really nervous around crowds. I also had to work, as I already had a job as a technical writer and couldn't afford to take the time off, as I'd been working as an intern at that same place for a few months before I graduated and had gotten promoted to a full-time position that same week. He didn't seem that upset about it at the time, but come to find out, He's been telling all the other relatives that I'm lying about graduating because I didn't attend graduation with my classmates, who weren't the same classmates I started with, and who I barely knew. I'm bewildered and hurt because this is behavior one would expect from my mother, not from me. Where do I even begin with dealing with him? How do I set boundaries with my family and move forward with our relationships? Is this a situation where I should cut ties and be glad for it, or can this be saved? Too long didn't read. My uncle is now spreading rumors that I didn't actually get my bachelor's degree because I didn't attend graduation. How do I deal with this and salvage my relationship with my family? Edit. Because people are asking, the health problems were caused by Crohn's disease. When I say life-threatening, I mean random bouts of horrible unexplained losses of bodily fluids that went on for up to a week at a time. I can admit the other stuff, the shitty relationships, getting hit by the car, the pregnancy, could have been prevented with planning, but I didn't give myself Crohn's disease. I inherited it from my mother, who according to my relatives was just lying about her random bouts of abdominal distress for attention. I omitted the exact nature of my illness out of consideration for the people in this sub who didn't want to hear about an intestinal disorder, and also out of consideration for myself, since I find my Crohn's symptoms deeply humiliating.